Joe, what about Vince and Dominic? Where are they today?
Well, Vince is out in Los Angeles. I think he's in the insurance, a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
you know, and you can't keep up with him. But Dom's in the polyurethane business. After he got through playing with the Boston Red Sox, he stayed right there. His wife is from there, and of course, he does get out to visit us every so often in San Francisco because I happen to have a boat out there, and he loves to salmon fish. So when he gets out there about 4 or 5 times a year, he jumps on that boat and gets lost, you know, and he enjoys that good old fog and not that humidity to get back east.
Did the three brothers ever play together on the same team at any time?
Not any one league game, but we were on the field at one time. We played an exhibition for charity, and that was, I imagine, during a war where they got us out of the uniform and put us out in the field. That was in Tampa. It was Vince, Dom, I, myself. 3 of us were playing the outfield in that particular game, and I believe it might have been against the Red Sox, Cincinnati Reds.
Were there any other brothers who were involved in baseball?
I had an older brother, Tom. He runs the restaurant out there in San Francisco, and Tom is about 72 years old, and he was the breadwinner of the family, being the oldest, you know. But he certainly had a great opportunity to be in baseball, but he had to forsake it only because of, like I had just mentioned, he had to help Dad out there in the fishing boat and so forth. But Vince, I would say Tom would have been quite a ball player. He was about 5'10" stature and weighed about 175, 180 pounds and can hit a ball as powerful as anybody I'd ever seen. Of course, when I was a kid, and I admired and looked up to him. And he's a great fielder. He would have made it good in major leagues.
Joe DiMaggio, growing up, was there an idol of Joe DiMaggio in baseball?
I had a couple because they came from that area, you know, and they'd come out and talk to us every so often. That was Joe Cronin and Lefty O'Doul. And Lefty was always a great favorite of the kids out there, you know. He'd get around the North Beach area where I was born, raised, and not exactly born, but I was raised around that area. And when Lefty'd come around, he'd always have half a dozen baseballs in the trunk. And after he'd go clubbing, he'd come out, you know, and he'd open up that trunk and just throw a couple of baseballs at us kids because he knew we played down a horse's lot, you know, where we used to have makeshift bases like a piece of rock for first and a piece of board for home plate. And we used the boat oar for a baseball, for a bat. So, and he knew all these things, and he certainly would take care of us kids.
You know, I've always wondered this question. Had you met Ernest Hemingway? Because he referred, you know, his book, The Old Man and the Sea, he talked about the great DiMaggio. Had you ever met Mr. Hemingway?
Yes, I had an occasion to meet him more than once. It was around New York, and that's when the Stork Club was in operation at that time, and he had just made a trip from Cuba, and there was half a dozen of us. We all decided to go over and see Billingsley, and who owned me a Stork Club, and that was Toots Shore and Eddie Dushin, just to mention a couple of names, and Hemingway. And of course, you know, Hemingway was kind of a rough, kind of a going guy. You know, he liked to live, and he enjoyed being around New York and being with his old-time friends, and he liked to belt a few here and there, and of course I had met him on other occasions as well. So I did get to know him, but not that great that he had to mention my name in the book.
You could tell that he was a great admirer. Well, the name appears in things like, well, the song Mrs. Robbins. You have to be flattered when those things appear these days.
I am, strictly that, just flattered. I had never met these fellows, and of course they were quite young, 20, 21 years old when they did the song.
Joe, as you look at the game today, what disturbs you most about baseball?
Well, I've really never looked at it that seriously, but I think baseball itself has been coming along pretty good. I noticed that Boston Red Sox team, you know, they have put some ball players together. They might be getting some more talent in the in major leagues. And well, when you say what disturbs me, I'll have to just tell you that the watering down of too many teams in the league are one of the things that disturb me. Is the fact that you got 12 teams in each league, and you don't have that many minor leagues to support the better ball players that day, and that is a little disturbing. Of course, you know, you have to realize too that these other sports are grabbing a lot of these fellows that play 2 and 3 and 4 sports today. And but as a whole, I think baseball around the country is doing very well.
Okay, we rolling, Dan?
One about ready to go up and smoke, folks.
You played for some great managers. I can think of one in particular, of course, Leo. What nowadays it seems managers are very clinical. It seems it's all in the book and it's all average. It's all percentages. Was it always like that?
Well, I think maybe the Dodger organization may have started that. You know, we had Alan Roth, who now works for NBC as a statistician for Kurt Getty and that bunch, and he used to work for our ball club. He could tell you how many times you drove a man in from second base with a single, or how many men you hit in from third base with a fly ball. And they had all this information, the Dodgers did. And I think that this organization could have started it. Alston, of course, he was there in 1954, his first year up, and he hasn't changed considerably. They say now it's much tougher or more difficult to manage, but Walt seems to have done all right in this era, to tell you the truth.
So the fiery, emotional manager isn't necessarily a thing of the past or a thing that really is needed back.
I don't think so. Of course, I like to see a manager that has a little fire and put on a little show. I used to love to watch DeRocher put on his act, and I'm sure sometimes it was an act. But Alston, he very seldom goes out there unless he feels like it's really necessary. And Sparky Anderson, he's kind of a fighter. And
Billy Martin, of course.
Billy Martin, he fights on and off, doesn't he? But he is a great manager. You know, he's been very successful wherever he's gone. It's just his off-field antics that get him in trouble. He's a great manager.